So, this video was originally planned for last Sunday when I usually release these kinds of Xenoblade videos. But I decided that I kind of just wanted more rest over Thanksgiving break and I really needed it, so I slept a lot and I didn't release the video, so it's coming out a few days later. But I hit 8,000 subscribers in between when the video was supposed to come out and when it's actually coming out. So, since this just coincidentally happens to be a large video encompassing important aspects of all three games in the series, I figured, hey, let's just rebrand this and call it an 8,000 sub special. So this isn't a big milestone, but it's another step along the way to 10k, which is the one thing that I really want to hit. So, as always with these kind of things, thank you so much for your support so far, and I hope you continue to watch and enjoy my content going forwards. But with that out of the way, let's launch into the intro that I actually had planned a minute after I was planning on saying it. Yeah. Xenoblade Chronicles means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For some, it's Nintendo's new flagship RPG franchise. For others, it's a brand new game that they just got alongside their Switches, maybe with something like Mario Odyssey when they got them Christmas 2017. For others, it's a continuation of a long-held and long-cherished meta-series of different game series that still focus on similar concepts and such, bringing them into the modern day, and finally seeing a bit of mainstream appeal. For still others, it's a betrayal and perversion of those old games, bringing it down and dumbing it down for a bigger audience. And for Tetsuya Takahashi, it's finally a chance to let his work shine, to get the backing of a much stronger publisher with a lot more faith in his work that's allowing him to run free and do what he really wants to do, and perhaps even, finally, a chance to continue telling his perfect work story that he started over 20 years ago. But we're not actually talking about that kind of thing today. Instead of that metaphorical meaning of Xenoblade Chronicles, we're going to talk about the other metaphorical meaning of Xenoblade Chronicles. And by that I mean, what does the title refer to in all three major games of the series? By that I mean, Xenoblade, obviously, it's a series. If it has Xenoblade in the name, it's a Xenoblade game. That's what it stands for, games in that series. But, all three games each have, in-universe, in that specific game, something that makes sense of the name Xenoblade Chronicles. So, I'm just gonna go through it. This is gonna take spoilers for all three games, because pretty big, pretty important stuff being talked about. And very quickly, I'm going to go over the older Xeno games because their names are a bit easier to decipher. First off, Xenogears. It's literally the name of an entity in the game, so that's pretty easy. And then next up, Xenosaga, being a trilogy in the same universe. There's not really anything that I know of, at least, in-universe that's specifically the Xenosaga, but if we take the word apart, Xeno is foreign of unlike kind to oneself, very frequently used in context of both people from other countries, like, unfortunately the first thing that comes to mind is the word xenophobia, but we're not going to talk about that now, and just, in general, think also xenomorph, it's an alien, it's from a movie named Alien, that kind of thing. So it's used frequently in space terms, so if we take the spacey, foreign concept definition of that, and then take it with saga, which is just kind of means a story, you get spacey story. It's basically a fancy way of saying space opera, which is an apt description of Xenosaga, so that works too, albeit on a very base level. There's probably 17 different levels in there too that I'm not privy to until I play those games. But moving on to Xenoblade, obviously, you still got the Xeno thing, something foreign or unknown, and then Blade. That's going to be important later. And then Chronicles. I'm not going to count the Chronicles, because that's not in the Japanese titles. It's the same across all three games. It again just kind of means story, so basically it just means the story of the Xenoblade, which refers to something completely different in every single game. So, we're just gonna go in release order, and talk about what this mysterious Xenoblade is for every single game. Yeah. First off, for the original game, you're probably saying that the Xenoblade is going to be the Monado, and I'm like 99.783% sure you're going to be correct if you say that. Not in the least because the original title of the game was Monado, Beginning of the World, before some nebulous higher up at Nintendo, but also some implications that it was actually Satoru Iwata himself, allowed Monolith Soft to change the name of the game to Xenoblade Chronicles in a tribute to Takahashi's older works. So the title of the game used to be Monado, now it's Xenoblade, so it's probably referring to the Monado itself, but it does actually fit the Xenoblade moniker in more than just that. Obviously, it's a sword. Swords can be called blades. It pretty much fits that, like, exactly true. But if you look into the Xeno aspect, it is definitely something very foreign in-universe on multiple levels, actually. On the lowest level, that being just of your opinion of it at the beginning of the game when you're using it in Colony 9, it's not a weapon designed by the Homs in Colony 9, it was made by some foreign entity not known to the Homs. Xeno. Second, in the more higher up legends of that universe, it was the sword originally wielded by the Bionis and then somehow passed down into a smaller form that the sentient life living on it could use. They basically look up to the Titans as deities, so it's basically like God showing up to fight Satan with a big butter knife, stabs him a couple times with it, and then he's like, "Hey, kid, take my butter knife." He throws it at you, but it shrinks down into a sword you can use. It's like that. I argue that God kind of counts as very foreign to humanity, so that's definitely a second level of Xeno. And then finally, at the end of the game, you find out that not only is Alvis the spirit behind the Monado, but also that Zanza and Mainith, being Klaus and another scientist, Galea, used to be researchers on some sort of space station orbiting on top of a space elevator, Earth, and that Alvis was actually the AI, one of 3 processors of some super powerful information unit running the station and also doing a bunch of weird dimensional shenanigans with the extra universal manifold thing that I don't even know how to physics around. So, the essence of the Monado itself actually came from an entirely different universe. So it's like Xeno on the small town nation level, it's Xeno on the universe level, and then it's also kind of Xeno on a multiversal level. So you got kind of 3 tiers of Monado in there, and I'm pretty sure I made my case pretty well. Moving on to X, there are actually several different viable candidates for what the Xenoblade or Xenoblades could be. First off, you've got, well, the whole organization of Blade, which is humans from Earth that crash land on Mira and are stuck there, so they're blades in a foreign area. They're also foreigners to this planet, so they are Xenoblades from the perspective of the Napon, and they're also blades in a foreign environment, so you got that going. Then, also, you start finding xenoforms, that is, sentient aliens from other planets, other star systems, all that kind of thing. Napon join, Manon join. Actually, I think that's about it who fully join Blade. But then you've got Xenos joining Blade, literally being Xenoblades, but that's Blade as the acronym and not Blade as a weapon. But there aren't really any significant swords, like, yeah, Nagi's got a sword. Receding Rust could count as a Xenoblade, just because it's a very powerful sword that's made from some unholy abomination of creation and stuff, assuming it came out of Lugalbanda's corpse. So, it's a sword made of foreign material, but I doubt one super boss drop is enough to count as the title drop. So, I'm gonna say that it's actually Elma specifically. She is a blade, so she falls under the first definition, because she was the blade from Earth. She's also a xenoform, so she falls under the second definition. But she's also, more importantly, something we know basically nothing about. Every other sentient alien race has at least a small amount of info drop, be it in bestiary, in universe, in story, in side quests, somewhere. But we kind of know nothing about Elma's race other than, yeah, she showed up on Earth, she helped us out, she then fought the Ganglion with us. You're done. Yeah, that's about it. So, we know so little about her. She is the most foreign thing beyond Mira itself, so there's no sword Xenoblade, but there is a Xenoblade being a person. Also, Elma is just kind of, in general, the most important main character, at least on the hero side, to the lore. So, in terms of the Monado / Alvis, and as you'll soon see in Xenoblade 2, Pyra, Mythra, Numa, Aegis, that also does make a lot of sense. And with that sliding easily on into Xenoblade 2, we can go to the obvious assumption that, like the Monado and Elma before them, the Xenoblade of this game is the Pyra, Mythra, Numa, Aegis, who I'm just going to refer to as Numa because that makes it so much easier for me. I like saying one word instead of 3 words, even though I talk a lot and add unnecessary words like I'm doing right now, so shut up. But there's a lot of the same stuff going on there. Xenoblades 1 and 2 are a lot closer to each other than either of them is to X, and, well, it's pretty obvious that Numa takes the exact place of the Monado in this story. So hey, there you go. But wait, there's more. Because this could refer to all the blades. It could also refer to Malos being another Aegis and, you know, also the same thing as the Monado from the first game, and the same thing as Numa. So that's a thing. But also, we know that the blades, the core crystals themselves, couldn't have happened without the conduit's power. It's this foreign, extra-universal, higher-dimensional construct's energy that allows them to have been brought into existence in the first place. So, in reality, the entire race of blades are Xenoblades, at least in this universe. Maybe there's a higher dimension up there where everyone's a blade or something. I don't know. That would be a cool thing to think about. But what's up with that? I'm still more inclined to say that Numa is the Xenoblade in this situation as opposed to it just kind of being the entire race because of one very, very interesting connection that I don't really think anyone has brought up before. I want you to think about the color of all the things I said were the Xenoblades. Let's start out with the first game. You've got the Monado. In its initial form, the one that Shulk first gains the ability to use, ignoring the Bionis version in the prologue, it's red. Major League, obviously. It's got highlights, but it's mostly red. Then, very close to the climax, at basically the end of the game, Shulk unlocks its true form. And what color is it? It's this bluish-greeny thing. Okay. Then, move on to X. You got Elma. Sure, you can change her armor, but at the start of a new game, she'll always be wearing her default red outfit. And then, at the end of the game, you find out that she's really an alien and see her true form. And because she's an XP of Cosmos, she's got a lot of blue and blue-green on her. And then, if you move on to 2, the thing I said was the Xenoblade was Numa. She starts out as Pyra, who is red with blue highlights, very similar to the Monado 1, as is her sword. And then, later on in the game, not at the very end this time, but still close to the actual climax part, you unlock her true form, Numa, her full power. And what color is her and the sword? Bluish-greenish. Yeah, it's a slightly different color in all cases, both the reds and the final color, but that's a thing. And trust me, Tetsuya Takahashi does not do coincidences, so I can't help but think that that was intentional in some way. And I'm just gonna go right out and say it. That's how you tell what the title of any Xenoblade game refers to. Is there a thing that starts out red and ends up blue and is very, very important to the plot and seems to have some sort of otherworldly connection? Well, that's your Xenoblade for the game. People are saying that the Xenoblade series is becoming Nintendo's Final Fantasy, and it is starting to gather its own set of staples like that series does. It's got the Napon being, I guess, the Chocobos, even though they're a sentient race. It's got its Cid in the name Vandam, which is something that technically even goes back to Gears with the name Vanderkam. And now it looks like it's got its thing, I guess this would be its equivalent of the elemental crystals, the Xenoblade, some entity of extreme power or knowledge that exists, that starts out red and ends up blue-green. And yeah, I guess that's what Xenoblade means. Red and blue. Something like that. I don't know. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you again for 8,000 subscribers, and let's hope I find many, many more in the days to come. Like, comment, subscribe, do that stuff. Share the video with a friend. I don't know, I don't usually say that one, so I'm gonna throw that in here too. And, as always, until next time, this is Luxin, signing off.